Welcome to the Disruptive podcast by Minority Innovation Weekend. Minority Innovation Weekend is a weekend summit dedicated to aiding innovators of color launch tech-focused startups, exploring emergent technologies and showcasing tech startups that have a founder or co-founder of color. During each episode, we will discuss innovation, tech startups, and more. Minority Innovation Weekend. One weekend, endless opportunities. Please visit www.minorityinnovationweekend.org to find out how to connect with us and to register for upcoming events.
Welcome to the MIW Disruptive podcast hosted by Sir Walter and Jerome. Today we got a special guest. He is a serial entrepreneur and CEO of the Blue fintech platform focused on enabling touchless payment experiences towards a cashless future. I am talking to Sesie, Bonsi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Excellent. Wow, fintech. Tell us, how did you get involved with fintech?
That's a great question. Originally I was an attorney and I was practicing law after I graduated from Pepperdine. And what I encountered is during the mortgage crisis was that there was a lot of commotion around financial services and around how they worked, how they operated. And as I was practicing in that field, I was doing mortgage foreclosure defense, representing, mostly minority homeowners, started to understand the structure of banking and payments and how payments worked. And then I was consulting on the side as well for startups in the payment space. And so I've been in payments for almost 15 years now. And really this project has been a labor of love, because what I began to understand is that as technology evolves and grows and technology in the payment space evolves and grows, really there are some communities and people that are being left behind and aren't getting access to a lot of the innovation that's happening in the space. And so for me, I thought that payments was a great opportunity and a great angle to actually create impact and create change. So that's kind of how I got into payments as my career.
Okay, so what phase is your company in now, and how did you put your team together?
Absolutely. So we launched in 2014, but I really started the project in 2010, understanding how Bluetooth worked, how proximity technology worked, how wireless protocols worked. And then we actually launched in 2014. I was unable to get any venture funding. We can get into that later. And I actually had to build a secondary business inside of the business to fund the business while we got to the stage where we're at now, where due to industry forces and really stroke of luck, touchless payments and contactless payments are top of mind for every bank and payment processor in the world right now, and we're growing very steadily. We have projects all over the world in every geography you can imagine, because they want this type of technology for the ability to turn everyday mobile devices into wallets and create those seamless checkout experiences. So we're in the market raising our Series A, and we're really excited about the progress that we've made so far this year.
Wow, you started another company to help support your core business. That's awesome. So, a lot of times we interview guests or founders, and they talk about, okay, I had to raise money. I had to do a friends and family round. Was that an issue for you?
Absolutely. I mean, my friends and family, I grew up in Alabama, son of African immigrants. It's not like I can go and tap, millionaires as friends and family to invest in my round. So, it really was the love of and my passion for what I was doing. My first investor, she was actually one of my clients, and she didn't really understand what I was doing, but she understood how passionate I was about the technology and what it could do. And that was my first check-in, and I'll never forget that. And that was a really near and dear, individual and being to my heart, and the way that she was able to connect with me personally and what we were trying to achieve. So it was those kinds of investors in the beginning where, I was looking around for people who just really committed to the concept that this isn't about today or tomorrow and turning a quick buck. This is about the future. And so it was difficult, but we were able to get, early investors who believed in what we were doing and the long-term vision of what we were doing to be the first checks in. So yeah, I think friends and family is critical to your success, but it's definitely harder when you're a minority founder.
So you stated earlier that you started an ancillary business in order to fund your core business. So how do you keep that focus on the core business at the same time that you're running an ancillary business?
I don't think you can. So I'm going to tell you that was a huge mistake.
Okay.
At the time, it seemed like the necessary way to go, and we'll just create this business and then integrate the technology into that business, and then distribute the both businesses at their core. But you do lose you do get distracted, and you lose your ability to maneuver with your core business it's a whole nother business, a whole set of other inputs and outputs and consistencies involved in it. And but it was necessary. It was what I had to do to keep the people that I had paid, and keep money flowing in, and keep the dream alive. I mean, honestly, there's so many times when this business should have and probably could have failed, but didn't. And that is the testament of the people that were involved at the time, the people that were working, and just the idea itself that kept it alive, and the investors that we had along the way that believed in it. So I would highly advise to not start another business outside of your core business to fund it. But I did what I had to do.
It's amazing to hear that you kind of came out around the early 2010 or even before that. So Square came out with their magnetic reader. Was that an inspiration to you, or you even know about it at the time?
Yeah, so what's very interesting is Square was not the first company to launch a magnetic reader connected to the phone. I don't even think it was innovative for them. What Square was innovative at doing was creating a seamless onboarding experience for a merchant to get a payment account or a merchant account. And so in the industry, if you've been in this business long enough, you understand the antiquated means and ways in which payment processors and companies were onboarding merchants. And it was taking weeks sometimes to get approved before you can take your first transaction. So that little dongle was not actually the innovation. It was the fact that I could go to a website, sign up in a matter of 5 minutes, and have this thing shipped to me in 3-4 days, and plug it into my phone, and then start taking transactions. That was the innovation that Square was able to master. And they essentially created their own vertical inside of the payment space. It's now become ubiquitous in terms of being a payfac or a payment facilitator. That did not exist at the time. And so they were able to really create this whole identity out of thin air. But the technology that they took to market was not new. There were several other companies that were building dongles connected to the phone through the speaker jack. They just didn't have the other innovative capability, was actually getting that merchant an account and onboarding them in a matter of seconds as opposed to weeks.
Gotcha. So I think I was reading that your technology is like a beacon technology. Can you elaborate a little bit more exactly what beacon technology is?
Absolutely. So, beacon technology, when you break it down, is really about, IoT, or Internet of Things,
Mhm.
where each individual device has an ID, and that ID can be connected to the network. And so every device on the network knows where every other device is. And so what we thought about is that, hey, if you can use IoT for multiple different industries, how does beacon technology apply to the world of payments? And initially, when we designed our first prototype, it was around a small little box that connected via USB that sat at the merchant point of sale. That was this IoT device that was able to relay messages from the point of sale to the customer's device, so that you didn't have to, pull out your card to make a payment. What we actually realized is that the device in your hand could be a beacon, and the tablet that the merchant was using could be a beacon. So you can actually remove the necessary, you remove the need to have another piece of hardware and just turn the hardware that everyone has into a node on this network of devices as beacons. And so that's really what, I see as the future. We're creating this, network, or this neural network of devices that are connected to one another for the ability to transact both payments and, like location-based data to create new types of retail and checkout experiences for merchants and customers. So
It's interesting. You develop hardware as well as software.
mhm.
At which point did you realize, hey, you know what? I need to lock down my intellectual property. I need to pursue some patents. When did that come about?
Yeah, so I was lucky, early on because of my background in the law. Early on, I knew we had to patent the concept and the idea, prior to even building the first, prototype. We had the idea, we had the concept, we had the designs, but we really wanted to make sure that we carved our own space in the market. And so that was really important to us. And it was also important to our investors that we protected our IP, going into this process, because we're building high technology. This isn't something that, is going to change the world overnight. It's going to take time. We're essentially building the road for, this new way of payment. I would equate it to, you had to build the road before you can get to the electric car, right? So we're building the road before you can get to these new types of, wireless, payment technologies that are going to come. So, and we're constantly coming out with new ideas that we're patenting as well, right? It was just the first one. We knew we had to protect it. And it's a decision that, you know, I wouldn't say every idea is patentable. Most ideas are just trade secret, which doesn't require you to do any, of the heavy lifting of filing a global patent. And it's very expensive and it's very time consuming. And there's a lot of back and forth. So most ideas are really just trade secrets where they just need to be protected internally. But if you are building, some high technology, it does involve, carving out your own P in order for you to scale quickly and be protected in what you do. Then yeah, you have to file a patent. You have to do that early.
So what was like the process for you to go
Mm.
from the ideal that you have to the actual prototype?
Wow. So as I said, I started this concept in 2010. It was a company that I was consulting for that, at the time I suggested to them this process, this idea of using devices as the payment methodology, and they didn't get it. And they said, well, we don't get it. We don't understand it. Whatever, we're going to pass. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go build it then. And so at that time, I started researching different wireless technologies, Zigbee and Wi-Fi, and I landed on Bluetooth because Bluetooth had just released a new protocol, Bluetooth 4.0 or Bluetooth Low Energy, where you could actually move small packets of data safely and securely over long distances. And I said, well, that's payment. That's a payment packet. Okay. And then I looked, and it was like every device seemed to have Bluetooth in it. And I was like, well, if every device has Bluetooth and this new protocol is able to move, packets of data safely and securely, then this can be the framework for, this payment technology. And in 2010, I actually then went and got a job as a bartender at night after I was practicing. And I started studying how people, interacted with the point of sale and how they paid and what the process was and, what their behavior was and what the habits were, and trying to understand, okay, if you're going to design something new for this, for the world, designing reality essentially, then what are the inputs that go into that? And how do you structure that? And how does the technology create more efficiency? How does it create, more of a delightful experience for the customer? And what are the pain points? What are the pain points for the merchant? What are the pain points for the customer? So I did that for 3 years. And at the same time, I studied Bluetooth protocols and how to actually move messages and data over Bluetooth. And yeah, that was the idea. And then when I got to the prototype phase around 2013, 2014, I started looking for a development and design firm that could actually build the technology that I was, ideating. And went to 2 or 3 different firms who didn't quite understand what I was doing. Ended up finding one that had a brilliant developer who could not only code, but could see at a high level, the impact of what was going to be uh, happening if this worked. And so he and I worked really closely together, and we ended up building the first prototype of this product. And at that point, I think once it worked, once I saw it working, I knew, okay, this was it. We got to launch this business. We got to file the patents. We have to do all the things necessary because this is going to be big.
Nice.
All right. Fast forward. It's 2021. People like the frictionless payments and things like that. But they're also concerned about data privacy. How are you protecting the customer as well as, I guess, your storefront client?
Absolutely. I think data and privacy and data security are paramount to what we were doing early on. That was very important to me because it didn't make sense, honestly, for a merchant. The Home Depot hack came out while I was in the middle of this, process of building this business. And it just didn't make sense to me why it's necessary for a merchant to be storing all of this really sensitive and personal data of their customers when you can create and initiate all these really beautiful advertising and marketing experiences with anonymized data. I don't need to know everything about you in order to deliver a right time, right place marketing message, especially using, our Bluetooth technology or location-based technology. So it's really an opt-in type of experience where the customer is opting in to receive the notifications or the messages from the retailer or the merchant, and the merchant is really optimizing that data to create a better experience. So for instance, if I walk into, my favorite department store and they know that I'm buying diapers, they don't need to know that my name is Sesie. I could be user 16678, right? But they know that I'm buying diapers. And because I'm buying diapers, the next time I'm in the store, they could easily offer me a discount on bottles, on pacifiers, on, baby wipes, all the ancillary products around childcare, because that's really all they need to know at that point. And I feel like that's a much better experience for the customer and the merchant, knowing that I don't have to share everything about myself, yet they still know enough about me to create, a beautiful experience the next time I'm in the store. And so for me, it's really about taking that privacy and that data and putting the control back in the hands of the customer to be able to, decide when and where they wish to share that information.
Okay, I was taking a little bit back. So you said that you were studying the Bluetooth and other technologies to get to where you are right now. What are some of the books and resources that you use in order to get spun up on it?
So the Bluetooth Special Interest Group, it's actually a nonprofit organization. They have all of their specs and all of their protocols online available for free. So you can go there and read up on it, read up on the history of it. It's all there. I read a lot of industry papers, a lot of white papers, use cases on the future that were, looking at different technologies. MIT has a lot of free public resources for different technologies that they were working on, or students have published papers that they were working on. So I did a lot of research in the space of IoT and looked at there's just so much free information on the internet.
Right.
I was shocked. I was shocked that there weren't any larger businesses or companies working on this technology in the space. And what occurred to me is that you really have to know 3 different fundamental components for this to work. You have to understand payments, number 1. You have to understand Bluetooth, number 2, and then you also have to understand point of sale, number 3. And so I think that's a collection of different industry components that larger companies really weren't focusing on. There was a lot of people doing things in one of those verticals, but connecting all of those 3 is really where we found the secret sauce.
Gotcha.
This year in 2021, El Salvador became the first country to make Bitcoin legal tender. Do you think that type of push is needed for mass adoption for kind of blockchain-based cashless transactions?
I do. I do. I think that the volatility that we're seeing right now in the crypto space is really a result of not enough volume. So the more volume that's able to enter the space, I think you're going to see more liquidity. So these big moves that these, large, owners are making is not going to affect the overall, sensitivity of the market if you've got more people in. And so I think big moves like that, like El Salvador, there's a lot of other Latin American countries that are thinking of making it legal tender, is going to get more people in, more liquidity, more volume, and you're going to see that volatility actually decrease, which makes it a stable method of currency. Honestly, though, I mean, I wouldn't particularly want to spend my Bitcoin as a form of currency at the moment. I see it's a great asset, but I think what is important is the layer 2 and layer 3 applications that can be built on top of Bitcoin, right? So Lightning Network and the ability to do real-time cross-border payments, fiat to fiat, leveraging the Bitcoin network, for real-time settlement is something really interesting. And so I think the more countries that get involved, the more, communities that get involved in learning and understanding, crypto on a personal level, I think is actually going to create a more stable environment.
Okay. So, like, what other technologies are you tracking or have interest in?
You know, outside of payments or in
Yeah.
payments or so
Either one.
honestly, what I'm excited about is energy. I think energy and zero waste. So circular supply chain, I think, is incredibly important. I think that one of my heroes, Victor Schauberger, one of his mottos was to, observe or understand nature and then copy or
Mm,
imitate. And
right.
nature does not waste, right? Nature does not waste anything. And so when you look at supply chain, when you look at, how we build products, how we design products, how we, build and design dwellings, how we generate energy, we create all of this waste. And so I think the exciting opportunities in the technology space, or any companies that are working on, creating opportunities where they can design or create products or even base materials that can, everything 100% can be used again. And so there's no waste generated. And so that's what's really exciting to me. And I think there's a lot of brilliant minds and interesting people that are moving into that space, and it's wide open, right? If you're the person who can create, the next durable, fiber that can be used for household goods and replacements of plastics, and it's 100%, reusable, then I mean, wow, like
Right.
you've done well.
You're right.
So I think that's
Right.
the next big open space for me, the next big green space that I think
Okay.
anyone thinking about building a business or looking at technology should definitely be focused on.
Okay.
Right now, is Blue? Is it on the market right now?
Yeah, so it's on the market. It's available through some of our partners. We are working with point of sale software developers in the US, Australia. We're working with self-service kiosk manufacturers and developers in South Africa. And we're working with a lot of big banks and big processors. Can't really go into too much detail, but where we sit in the supply chain of payments is that you won't actually know that we exist. One day,
Okay.
the banking app or the mobile payment app that you're using is going to say, hey, do you want to make a payment over Bluetooth? No, tapping and no cards necessary. That will be our technology embedded inside of your existing application. So
So it's kind of like a white label.
more like a middleware, right?
Okay.
So your traditional banking app, whether it's Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, et cetera, one day you're going to get an alert that, hey, I can go to my local retailer and check out using Bluetooth inside of that app. And so that communication protocol and that technology between that device at the checkout in your phone will be our technology.
Wow, that's really pretty cool. Pretty cool. So I'm sure other companies are like looking at what you're developing. Are you have any fear that some of like the bigger companies may take the technology that you're developing and then incorporate it into their designs, like Apple Pay or whatever the case may be?
So that's what we want, right? So we don't
Okay.
see them as competitors, we see them as partners, right? I
Okay.
see Apple Pay and Google Pay and Samsung Pay eventually, ingesting our technology into their ecosystem and allowing people to pay via Apple Pay over Bluetooth,
Mhm.
or pay via Samsung Pay over Bluetooth. I don't see them as competitors. I see them as collaborators in the future. So we're
Okay.
not too concerned about that. Yeah.
What's next for your company after you've made all these partnerships? What's your dream goal for the company after you've made these? You're in every device.
Yeah. So honestly, I'm my dream for the company is to one day be able to see, somebody in a village somewhere, whether it's Latin America, Southeast Asia, Africa. Let's say they're a motorbike repair shop or they're a bicycle repair shop, and they want to be able to take payments. And all they need is that device they have in their hand, and the person comes to, pick up their bike, and they're able to transact with them over whatever method they wanted, whether it's, bank to bank, whether it's mobile money, whether it was crypto. That interaction between those two individuals happening with our technology, to me, that would be the dream. That would mean that we have done something, important for that, not only that person, for that community, because now they have autonomy over the way that they're exchanging value with one another. So, besides all the incremental things that you have to do as a business owner and scale and VCs and metrics and all this stuff, for me, when I think about what would be the dream of the future, it'd be that.
Yeah. Nice. So, so outside of technology, you know,
Mhm.
you pick up a book, or what's like your top three books that you're reading just to get away from focusing on the company, but just try to
Mm.
get away from everyday business. Like what's like books that you read to or topics you read on?
Got it. So I would suggest, for me, I'm pretty out there. So I would suggest Of Water and Spirit by Maladoma Some. It's about his journey as an African shaman through his rite of initiation, and it's an incredible story that brings the power of ceremony and ritual into healing and healing communities, which I think is necessary right now. I think there's a loss of spirituality in our communities. It's the missing piece, and there's a lot of these ancient rituals that can do just that, to bridge communities and heal communities. And sometimes words and sometimes language actually makes the problems worse. And so, if you can connect over ritual and ceremony, you can actually initiate the healing process. So that would be number one. Number two, Bowl of Light, Dr. Hank Wesselman. It's his conversation and relationship with a Hawaiian shaman, Elder Hale Makua, over several years, and really around the same things, right? It's just really talking about how to honor the land, honor our ancestors, reconnect with our spirituality, deepen our spirituality, and heighten our frequency and our energies to live in and create, this new version of Earth that we all want to be in. So those would be my top two books at the moment. And Living Energies by Callum Coates. It's a breakdown of Victor Schulberger's theories on water and how power of water can solve a lot of our environmental issues that we're currently dealing with right now. So those are the top three, I think, books I'm enjoying or constantly rereading.
Okay. All right. I gotta check those books out.
Right. Sesie, we appreciate you coming on the podcast. This has been a very, I've learned a lot over this last 40 minutes or so. Is there anything you would like to share that we didn't even ask about?
No, I mean, I think we covered it all. I just really want to appreciate being a part of this, and any insights or any advice I can share about my journey that may help someone or answer any questions. It's more than happy and pleasure to do.
Are you on Twitter? Or I'm sorry, go ahead. Are you on Twitter or anything?
I'm not big on social media.
Okay.
It's just not. It's not how I share my ideas. But I do write a lot. I am on LinkedIn quite a bit, sharing articles that I write and contributing to thought pieces. So LinkedIn is pretty much my only social media outlet.
Okay. Yeah, because that's going to be my question too. How can people reach out to you? But yeah, definitely. I have checked out your LinkedIn, definitely, and read one of the articles on, I think it was TechCrunch. Definitely very, very interesting. Well, we want to thank you for being a guest once again on the Disruptive podcast. Definitely appreciate your time and all the words of wisdom that you expressed during the podcast. So definitely appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well.
That wraps up this episode of the Disruptive Podcast by Minority Innovation Weekend. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Check us out online at www.minorityinnovationweekend.org and connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.